Hey everyone, my name is Ace.
And I'm Heather.
And this is the Twin Flame Journey.
And in today's episode, we are going over how to be a mirror for each other.
But before we get started, if you could hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and follow us on Telegram at Army of Energy Chat, or find us
at essentialenergetics.com to learn more about the services we offer.
We'd be so grateful. And today's episode is going to be on leaning in versus pushing away, projection, and immediate communication. And we're going to explain how we can be a mirror for one another, or we could mirror one another, and that usually causes a lot of drama in our relationships. So the first thing we wanted to talk to you all about today was choosing to be vulnerable. You can either lean in or you can push away. So what's being vulnerable to you?
Basically for me is telling you what's going on in my mind and my heart at the time.
Why? How has that been difficult for you in the past, from the past relationships you've been in?
I've just never been able to, partly because probably somewhere in my childhood I was vulnerable and got scolded for it.
And plus your past relationships, you would try to open up to your boyfriends or your husbands, and they would put you down. They would downplay it and they gaslight you. And so I feel that we bring a lot of trauma from past relationships, even relationships with our parents, our siblings, even school. You know, we bring a lot of that past trauma into this divine relationship, and we expect it to be the same, and we don't even give our divine, our twin flame, our divine partners an opportunity to demonstrate to us that they are different, it is different, and it isn't the same. So
in reality, you've just mirrored all my trauma, just being you. And so
choosing to be vulnerable was difficult for you because you felt you weren't accepted by those around you. That's how I felt my whole life. For me, it's more of I'm never enough for the person I'm with. That's the feeling I get. That's the ego narrative that I paint for myself. And then the person will start reflecting instances to validate that. And though it was an ego program and thought, it starts to become more spiritual in nature because I start seeing red flags. But with you, I haven't seen any of that. My ego still wants to project and create this narrative that isn't true about her because it's scared of how good her love is. Another step in this is stopping before reacting. So in your past, you've told me that you would react to certain stimuli in relationships and just, and do that whole crazy ego, anger, rage thing. How have you been able to not do that in our relationship so much? And how have you been able to keep it more innocent in the way you deal with, say, tiffs, arguments, or things that when you feel like you're not being thought of in our relationship?
First it started with me acknowledging that I was doing those things in my past relationships and seeing that it wasn't healthy and that I wanted to change those things. And so now when something comes up, instead of lashing out at you in anger, I take a deep breath. And a lot of times I'll actually take maybe even a day to reflect on if it's me, if it's you, what's really going on before I even come to you, because I don't want to come to you all twisted.
And that's the key is to understand that they are literally you. Your twin flame is you, and how would you want to be received? How would you want to be approached when it comes to very vulnerable, heartfelt things that have not been received well in the past? We really do need to put ourselves in the other person's shoes as much as possible and see it from their perspective, so that we're not taking it all on our shoulders and thinking that they're not going to love us the way we need to be loved. For me, my reactions were always in meanness. I get to a point where I've had enough, and then all of that compassion and empathy goes away, and there's that stone cold type vibe that I get, I call it being done vibe, and then it's just I don't care what happens after that. But I have to care what happens after that, because hurting her is hurting me, and me saying mean things to her is just me saying mean things to myself. And so stopping before reacting has been key to our communication and to this mirror effect being positive and not so negative. explaining instead of attacking. So how would you define explaining yourself, your feelings, your vibes before you come out and attack me for something that's like, it's your fault? You know, it's like, that's that, to me, when you hear something like, it's all your fault, that is like the most innocent trauma coming to the surface. It's like being 4 years old and not having the ability to express yourself, where it's just, it's your fault I feel this way. But is it?
This just actually happened to us a couple of days ago. I wasn't able to communicate what my needs were, and it just kept building up, and then he also wasn't explaining how he was feeling, and so there was a time where I asked for a hug, and you were like...
And I reacted on her,
and
and I
did.
was like, you're being this way. And she's like, and you're doing this to me. And then it became this whole...
Now you hurt me. When in reality, had we just communicated with each other from the get-go, that whole thing would have been...
It's not what it turned into.
No.
But it was necessary, because she was feeling a certain sort of way, and she was scared to communicate that to me. Not because it was me, but because she still has a hard time being vulnerable with me at times, because she thinks that she's being extra, or that it's her fault. So it's two sides to that coin. You sometimes have to sloppy communicate with your divine flame, and then it's up to me or the other to receive it and then be able to work through that with you.
Yes.
More than just... And it ended up being into a raw fest for about 10 minutes before we were able to sit down and have a conversation. And the key that we use is separating and walking away. In her past, she had pretty deep, profound abandonment issues. And so with me, a lot of my relationships ended in the past because the woman wouldn't give me that space I needed to process, come back, and have that conversation, because they were abandoned and they were scared I was leaving for good. She had that same mentality, but she knew that doing that to me, because I've explained it to her, that it's going to push me away. So the more that she's giving me that space to process when I get upset and then come to her and have that conversation, the more she's seeing and the more her ego's seeing that I'm not going to abandon her, I'm not going to leave her high and dry, and that this is how I process in order to be non-reactionary, which is exactly what we're talking about here. And then the final part of this first aspect of this conversation is trusting you'll be received with love. Now, in the past, she wasn't received with love. In the past, my needs weren't met with love. The space I needed at times wasn't received with love, and then I would just run away. I don't want to run away from this relationship, so I'm willing to walk through the fire with her to figure it out. And what I've learned coming from my perspective with her is that when she comes to me with her truth, I have to receive it with love, with humility, and listen to her, or she's not going to do that, and then I don't have a leg to stand on. So how did you begin trusting me more and more when it came to the fact that you'll be vulnerable, you'll speak your truth, and then you'll be received with love?
It was first trusting myself. And putting myself first. And not like I have to do this for me. And if you take it the way you take it, then you take it the way you take it. I have to do this for me and my human. And the more I started stepping through that fire, being uncomfortable, the easier it gets.
It does. It really does.
And now my human, my ego is trusting him even more and more, because he does receive me every time with so much love.
And for me, it's always been a distance thing. I had a one arm's distance from her. My human had been hurt a lot through the last 12 years of my life, 13 years of my life as an adult. And what changed everything for me was leaning into her love more and allowing her to show me, and her human to show me, that it's a safe space to lay my head, it's a safe space to be vulnerable, and that she's going to receive me with love, and that she's not going to push me away, she's not going to make me feel like I'm less than a man because I'm being sensitive and I'm being vulnerable and I'm expressing my femininity to her. So that's really important too, is this just takes time and it takes iteration, and if you're not willing to go out on a limb and take a chance with your divine partner, then you'll most likely end up pushing each other away. So now we're going to move into the second part of this conversation, and that's projection. We think it's them, but it's us. What did you mean when we wrote that down? What did you mean by that?
So I noticed just different things through our relationship. I thought it was you. Like, he's doing this, he's doing that. But when I actually took a step back and took some breaths and really, really asked myself, am I really ready for that? And the answer was no. And it was me. It really was me. I wasn't ready, and you were reflecting that I wasn't ready.
Yes, and it's the ego wants more.
Mm-hmm.
The ego always needs more to feel comfortable, safe, fulfilled, satisfied. It's the ego that needs more than what there already is. It's the ego that projects into the future. It's the ego that worries about the past and compares and contrasts what's happening now with what's happened then, not giving us an opportunity to allow it to be what it is and be different if it wants to be. And that takes away from the relationship. It takes away from the love that we produce for each other. It takes away from all that we do because it's never enough. I have to do that a lot too. Is my whole life I blame myself for everything while still projecting outward. It was just this neurotic, narcissistic dance, like this ballet of narcissism and neuroticness or neurosis that kept me exactly where I was, which was miserable and alone. And as I've allowed myself to feel how I feel, but also realize that I'm human and I project and I have moments that are insecure. But what has helped me with that projection is to stop in that moment, and she'll even see it on me. I tried to do an intro for this video and I didn't flow and I had to restart it. And doing things over again is a trigger for mine, and I kind of got down. My vibe went down a little bit. She goes, "What's wrong?" And I said, I had to redo it again, and I'm kind of triggered by it right now. She's like, it's okay, we'll do it again, it's perfect. And I said, it is perfect. I just need to let it go right now. I need to feel it, and I need to let it go. And then we started it again, and it was an excellent intro, and now this video is perfect, exactly what we set intentions for. So it's also being real with yourself and saying, hey, I'm triggered right now. Hey, I'm uncomfortable. I'm unhappy. I am feeling a certain sort of way, and I do not know what it is. So like something like today, she woke up and she's like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. So if you're feeling this sort of way, it's because this is where I'm at. I didn't even have to ask. I didn't even have to, is there something going on with her? And try to burrow into her brain and try to pull thoughts out and feelings out of her heart. She was literally woke up and told me, this is who I am today. So please accept me for that. And I said, thank you for communicating, and I totally will. It's like we're taking away from the possibility of an ego assault. We're taking away from the possibility of being hurt because we're communicating to each other truthfully in our innocence, which is just being ourselves, and knowing that it's going to be received well because there's no energy behind it other than positive and love. So what I had written down for this is they reflect what is unhealed in us, and that sometimes our partners act in a way that triggers us, which is not them, so that we can heal. So what does that mean to you? Sometimes you'll see, I just become not me. And you're like, wow, what is that? And then all of a sudden you'll see a reflection, and then you'll go, whoa, this reminded me of this time in my life. And I remember that I had this going on there. Maybe it's time for me to release that.
Yep.
It's like I almost become a character for you to reflect with.
Yeah.
So you can heal something from your past, and then I revert back to being who I am.
Yeah.
And we're back to being present. So explain a little bit more about that.
Well, I will say when I picked you up, you literally reminded me of everyone in my life in some way or another, negative and positive. And as I begin to heal those aspects, the negative ones, you have become more you. And I don't see that reflection anymore. It's really cool.
It is really cool. What was amazing for me is when she picked me up from Missouri last year, drove 15 hours, we met on the internet, she went on a limb. She could have ended up on a ditch somewhere, but she didn't. Some family members were about it, other family members weren't. I was on my adventure, I was on my spiritual deployment, still am, but I was deep in that spiritual deployment at that point, and I just surrendered. And what I realized for me was you reflected basically all the things I said I'd never do. I'll never do that, and I'll never do that, and I'll never be this, and I'll never do that. I mean, she took every never I have ever said and thrusted me into those situations and helped me show myself that I am capable in any situation, regardless if I'm happy, regardless if I'm comfortable, regardless if I'm fulfilled, and all those things. She's seen all 32 flavors of me and then some in the last year, and yet our relationship is stronger than it's ever been, and we're more trusting of each other than we've ever been because we're choosing to mirror positively and not project as a mirror negatively, which we're seeing that projection is causing a lot of separation in these divine unions. And as each portal is moving through the year, more and more humans are waking up, and more of those who are awakened are coming together with another awakened soul who is their divine flame, and they're now starting these iterations of ego battling, because the human wants familiarity, and being with your twin flame, there is nothing comfortable and familiar about it.
Until it is.
Until it is. And then you start to remember past lives, you start to remember who you really are, and all of a sudden it just flows. And for me, I want as much flow as possible, so I'm willing to lean in to her and with her, so that we're not dealing with a lot of bullshit and a lot of drama that's causing us to rift and not fly. So a story I can talk about to help iterate this is, in my life, I felt that this world is very uncourteous. I feel there's a lot of individualism. There's not a lot of people thinking about other people, and you can see this by going into a Walmart and watching how people walk around, how they push their carts, how they don't pay attention to anyone. They act as if they're the only ones in the store, and it's a huge trigger for mine. And I would go out of my way in my life to demonstrate that I am courteous, because I'm a shit talker. Not so much anymore, but in the past I was a shit talker. But I'm also the kind of person that believes if you're going to talk shit, then you better embody what it is you're shit talking about. And so I would go out of my way to embody this overcompensation of courteousness, so that I would have a reason to be angry. And when we started going to Walmart or grocery shopping together, she kind of didn't have much attention to anybody around her. This was before I really got to understand why she walked through life that way. I got to understand, through her life, she's been traumatized a lot. She's been made fun of a lot. She's been bullied a lot, to the point where she eventually just shut everybody out that's in the outside world, and she now walks through the universe kind of in her own universe, which I respect, because she's happy when she goes out, and I'm the one getting triggered by everybody, and well, you see this person, and you see that person, and it triggered me when we'd walk through the store and she wouldn't pay attention to people coming down the aisle, and they'd be waiting for her to get out of the way, and she's just like, boo, 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 boo. I don't care, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, Heather, come on, But what she showed me was, I'm projecting onto her that she's being uncourteous, but in reality, I'm so overtly courteous that I'm insecure about not being courteous, to the point where it's taking away from my now experiences, trying to think, feel, and be for everyone else but myself. And she taught me how to let it go and let it flow more. I'm still very courteous when I go out, but I'm not going to go out of my way and get upset and ruin my day because of the way other people are acting. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And so let's talk about this. Let's talk about this final aspect of this conversation, which is immediate communication. So, recognizing triggers in the other. What does that mean to you?
Well, I've learned when you're triggered. I learned your body language. I feel your energy, and so now I'm just like, instead of chasing rabbits and thinking for you, I ask you, hey, what's up? What's wrong?
And generally speaking, I tell her right away what's going on. It took her a while to kind of open up to me, because sometimes we just don't know what's going on, and we're afraid to speak out of turn and create a reality that's not there. So what we've learned to do is say, I don't know how I really feel right now, I just know I feel off, so let me process on it, and I'll come back to you at a later time when I figure it out, and just know it's not you. Like, so easy. Yeah. It really is. And I'm not just saying this for divine relationships. You literally could do that with a random stranger on the side of the road. You could literally be having the worst day, and you go up to the cashier at, say, a health food store, and you're just gruff. And she's like, oh, that's $18.36. And you're like, I don't got the money for... I'm sorry. I'm having a really rough day, and I'm sorry that this is happening, that I'm putting this onto you. It's not your fault, and please don't receive my energy. Immediately, that person can go... cut the energy tube, and you're now not pushing your energy onto them, because energy is not created nor destroyed. Recognizing triggers within ourselves. Explain that a little bit.
That's so important. I'll feel my energy shift, and then so I'm like, what's going on within me? What just happened? What is it showing that I need healed? And then I communicate with you if it's needed to.
And what I've learned about this, recognizing the triggers within ourselves, is this will be what demonstrates to you that you really do only have one now moment, and that is the only moment we can live, because one moment we are on top of the world and happier than anything. And the next moment something goes down, and now you're just a little lower vibe. And then something else happens, and then something else happens, and then something else happens, and then something else happens. But because you didn't deal with the fact that your energy shifted up here, it's this cascading effect down the mountain, and all of a sudden you're back at base camp. You're no longer on the peak, and you can't see the forest from the trees anymore. It's really important to be as present as possible, and it makes it easier when you're with your flame, because it's all you want to be, is you want to be with them in the now moment, the only moment that is real. So the best way to see a trigger happening within you is to go, was this how I felt when I first started whatever it is you're doing? I like to go into situations with a baseline energy. Am I upset already? Am I happy? Am I good? And then all of a sudden I go into a public place and then I'm like down, and I know it's not my energy. It's the energy of the place. It's the energy around me. Maybe there's entities. Maybe there's ghosts. Maybe there's demons. Maybe there's evil eye going on in that. Maybe there's something going nefarious happening that we don't know. We are multidimensional powerhouses that are constantly on. It's not our fault. So don't always blame yourself for the energy shifts you have. Explore them. And then the final part of this is communicating to the other what's actually going on and not allowing false narratives to take hold. We get triggered, and then we start creating. Don't create. I feel like the thoughts are created for us. We choose to chase the thought that best matches the experience we're having in the vessel. The quantum computer and the vessel are two and the same, but they're also independent of one another. The brain receives thoughts and creates this energy, and then the body is feeling certain things, and you're trying to reconcile that inside. And so by communicating to your flame that, hey, I just turned down, hey, my vibe just changed, hey, I'm not feeling the best, you then don't allow your mind to create false narratives and storylines that then project onto your flame and push them away or purr away or repel them away. And this also allows for any false narratives coming from your twin flame. Why are they feeling that way? Why are they acting that way? Do they not like me? Do they not love me? And all your innocent insecurities come out. By communicating and bringing it into the material by using the word of God to each other in this divine relationship, you're taking away any of that extra thought that could be created that could throw a wrench in this beautiful gears that you're creating with each other. To conclude our conversation about this twin flame journey being a mirror for one another, we talked about leaning in to each other instead of pushing away. We talked about how projection puts major stress and rifts on your relationship, and that through communication, immediate communication, when you're feeling how you feel, will allow for those rifts to be less, to allow for those moments of downturn to be not as long. And I wrote this at the end. I would really love for this to be the final kind of perspective to be gained from this video, and that's the love you don't give yourself will be the love you expect from your flame, which will never be enough to sustain the relationship, because there is an energetic gap that is causing a vortex. When we aren't feeding ourselves with love, because we're expecting our twin flame to give us love, it will end in disaster every time, because there is an energy vortex when we're not feeding ourselves love. We literally have to fill our cup until it's flowing over with love, and then that extra is then given to our twin flame. It's easy to immerse myself in her. It's easy to want to give everything to her and to forget about myself. It's easy. But the twin flame journey isn't about easy. It's about the challenge. And the challenge is, can I love myself the same amount as I love you? So what's your perspective on this final part?
So initially, the twin flame journey is about finding yourself and loving yourself. And if you do not love yourself, your twin flame will not reflect that back to you at all.
And they will try their best. They will love you and they will do everything they can, but there is an energetic gap that cannot be traversed until the other starts to fill their own cup with the love that they need from themselves. Because you're right, this twin flame journey started with becoming a twin flame, which becoming a twin flame is becoming androgynous in your energy. It's balancing your divine masculine and feminine energies. It's removing the emotional traumas from your past, keeping you from allowing love in or allowing yourself to love freely. And then when you do enough healing and you become more one within yourself is when you can then attract and magnetize your twin flame, which will then continue this healing journey because you're still a twin flame within you. You're still balancing these energies within you. Now you're just doing it together, and it makes it just that much easier. Do you have anything else to say before we get off?
You always say, and I really like it, it's not about finding your other half, it's finding your other whole.
And you've got to become your own whole before you can find your other whole. And then you become even a bigger fractal whole from there. And then your tribe comes, and then community comes, and it's beautiful. And the abundance is going to be more in love and connection and community before it's going to be in the material. If your focus is materializing and manifesting physical material abundance, that's where all your energy is going. But if your energy is moving towards building a life that's worth living, finding love that's worth loving and fighting for, and creating an existence that you don't want to stop existing in, then go within. You know, that's where you'll find God, that's where you'll find yourself, and that's where you'll eventually find your twin flame, and then they'll manifest from without. So thank you so much for joining us for the second installment of the Twin Flame Journey Spirit Cast. We would love for you to comment if you would like to work with us and learn better ways of connecting with your twin flame, healing from past traumas, keeping you from your twin flame, or just getting a better concept, a better understanding and grasp of what this twin flame journey is all about, then hit us up at heal@essentialenergetics.com. And if you could like this video, share it with anyone who can benefit from it, and hit that subscribe button, we'd be so grateful. And don't forget to join us on the conversation at Telegram, t.me/Army of Energy Chat. And you have anything else?
No.
And so with that, we hope you have a wonderful day, an even better evening, and we will talk to you again sometime soon. Take care and goodbye.